Stunning news. The President of the United States now confirming to the world that he and the First Lady of the United States have both tested positive for the coronavirus, and they will quarantine.
And in the last few minutes, President Trump has tweeted saying that he and the First Lady have tested positive for COVID-19. Let's go
A short walk and a thumbs up as President Trump, stricken with COVID-19, left the White House for Walter Reed Medical Center.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he exercised all power of the first beasts before him, and he caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wounds was healed. The Bible, speaking of America, foretells of a future where the lamb-like power, or this Protestant nation, shall speak like a dragon, which refers to the fact that America will be a persecuting power. But who will they persecute? It goes on to say that America would cause the whole world to worship the first beast, or the first kingdom that had world dominance before America came on the scene, which implies that America and this beast or kingdom are working hand in hand to usher in the mark of the beast, or as is commonly known as the New World Order. And as stated in the Bible, this New World Order deals with worship. But what does Trump getting the coronavirus have anything to do with the mark of the beast?
After landing, the president tweeting this video.
I'm going to Walter Reed Hospital. I think I'm doing very well, but we're going to make sure that things work out. The First Lady is doing very well. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will never forget it. Thank you.
The president's diagnosis and hospitalization are a shock for the nation and his administration, which has repeatedly downplayed the pandemic. The president, who has rarely worn a mask publicly, has continued to hold large-scale rallies without mandating social distancing or mask wearing. On Saturday, hundreds of supporters jammed into the Rose Garden as President Trump announced his Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett.
There are several people who were at that event who have now tested positive.
Among those in attendance, Utah Senator Mike Lee, caught on camera, mask in hand, hugging one person after another. He has since tested positive. Also in the crowd that day and later testing positive, Kellyanne Conway, the president's former advisor, and the president of Notre Dame University, Father John Jenkins. Neither were wearing masks.
We don't know yet whether, officially the White House event was super spreader, but as more cases start to build up, it's becoming clearer and clearer that it likely was one.
On Monday afternoon, the president and vice president walked out into the Rose Garden maskless.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
To give an update on the nation's coronavirus testing strategy. The next day, the president traveled to Cleveland for the first presidential debate. During their first debate, the president and Joe Biden maintained social distancing, never shaking hands. But questions remained about the amount of prolonged, forceful discussion.
But you can't just rely on testing, and you can't just rely on social distancing or mask wearing. It's the combination of these approaches. And yes, when you think about indoor spaces, the ventilation is super critical, and that really indicates the risk that people have.
The president mocked Biden for wearing a mask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
In the front row, Dr. Jill Biden, seen with her face covered, a sharp contrast to the president's family, mostly not wearing masks, violating the rules of the Cleveland Clinic that hosted the debate. At one point, a health worker approaching them with masks, they refused. With the election around the corner, Supreme Court nomination hanging in the balance, in a nation in crisis battling a global pandemic, what happens from here is unknown.
Behold, the former things are come to pass. Now I declare new things, before they spring forth, I proclaim them to you. So therefore we can know what is to come, but from the lens of the Bible. And we saw from the Bible that America will speak as a dragon and become a persecuting power. But who will they persecute? Revelation reads, and the dragon was wroth with the woman or the church, and went to make war with the remnant of a seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Again, Christ, speaking of this event, says the following: For then shall there be great tribulation or persecution, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And today we are seeing the beginning of this persecution upon God's people.
Churches in California may soon be a lot quieter. The state issuing a new ban on singing and chanting in places of worship.
Church choirs silenced. Singing has been banned at all church services in California.
It's a little bit different, I would say, to have at least 4, maybe 5 or 6 cops show up as it relates to this order. I have a deep love and respect for law enforcement. I understand these are difficult times, and we love our community. In our other news releases and interview, that we don't believe a virus suspends the First Amendment, and the First Amendment not only protects the church, but it protects the press. So I think it's significant that both sides pay attention, obviously, to the constitutionality of the current season, just looking down the road to what could unfold in the future.
Baltimore was interrupted at the service yesterday by police. The pastor says they didn't break any laws, but police say they aren't following the governor's order to keep gatherings to a minimum. WMAR 2 News' Eddie Kadam was at the church today and shows us why the pastor believes keeping the doors open is the right thing to do.
The pastor says it's their First Amendment right to keep holding services and that they are essential. He says they're following all the CDC guidelines and that people are staying 6 feet apart.
The first 3 words of the Constitution is "we, the people," not "we, the government." The government works for the people. I'm Pastor Jack Trieber of North Valley Baptist Church in Santa Clara, California. Well, the government's done it again. They've ratcheted this thing up. They just posted more signs on our building. Because they said we're having an indoor gathering, we are not social distancing, which is not true, by the way. We are refusing to wear face masks, and we're now, again, singing in church. And we've not given them a protocol. Well, we're not allowed to give them a protocol because they won't accept it. So they fined us $250 for one day. The next day, $500. The next day, $1,000. The next day, $2,000. The next day, $4,000. And now the last 4 days, they've just given to us $5,000 a day. In addition to having Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night church, that's $5,000 each time. Every single day, we don't give them a protocol. What protocol can we give them? America, this is a serious moment. In just these few days, we're up to $52,000. $52,750. Government, it must stop. It cannot continue this way. It's we the people. I read to you from the Bill of Rights. I'm going to try to make this quick. Congress shall make no law establishing the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Or abridging, we know, means to lessen or to diminish or to reduce. They cannot reduce our rights. It's not the government's right to do that. Or the freedom of speech, the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble. That refers also to this idea of religion in the first part of this amendment. We have the right to assemble before God. Not only do we have a constitutional right, we have a biblical command.
The Bible says that America must speak as a dragon. But what does it mean for a nation to speak? Throughout the Bible, prophets, kings, and men and women of God spoke on God's behalf, and that which they spoke was the directives, the command, and the laws of God. Therefore, when the Bible says that the lamb-like beast will speak as a dragon, we must conclude that for a nation to speak, it must do so through its constitution or laws. And if these be true, then America must seek to strip the rights of the church, replacing it with draconian laws, which, if defied, will lead to persecution, yea, even death. But how will America enforce such laws when its constitution has been founded on Protestant values? To understand this, we must go to Hegel, who came up with a dialectic which leads to a planned synthesis. Hegel's dialectic comprised of two opposing views. These views cause tension among them. This tension is resolved by a compromise, which is the synthesis or the true planned outcome. So logically, America, and by extension the world, would never give up their rights. But if a condition is created where giving up their rights is the best outcome, then this can be achieved. And currently, the pandemic is a great condition to accomplish this. So could this be just another piece of the puzzle that would eventually lead to stricter COVID laws and ultimately to the mark of the beast?